This section will present the impacts of quality, including the costs and the benefits. As we'll see, ideally, a good quality culture creates a flywheel where quality continually furthers itself to higher and higher levels. But let's first categorize quality costs, starting with external failures. These are costs associated with defects that have reached the customer, meaning the customer has experienced the defect, versus internal failures are costs associated with defects before reaching the customer. So the customer has not experienced those defects. So again, external failures have been delivered to the customer. Internal failures have been caught during or shortly after production before reaching the customer. So back to these external failures, and as you might guess, these can be quite costly as recovery will involve repairs, refunds, upgrades to make it right with that customer. And one way to combat that is to offer service guarantees. These can be an effective way to simplify recovery. And they force the producer to examine their processes as well as set clear metrics. And service guarantees also focus the employees on what to do. Now, internal failures tend to be less costly and are generally easier to resolve. So these can be reworked, meaning fixed, or they can be scrapped, meaning thrown out. Next, appraisal includes costs associated with checking the quality of products and services, such as a human inspector or some sort of automated inspection. So, appraisal is just the cost of looking for defects, not necessarily fixing them. When a defect is found, it then becomes an internal failure. Then, last is prevention or mistake proofing, costs associated with stopping defects from happening in the first place. So, we're going to prevent defects from occurring. And we see the Japanese term there, poka-yoke, meaning mistake proofing. These are simple mechanisms or designs that prevent errors from occurring, or at least make them immediately obvious. So prevention, i.e. zero defects, reflects a key tenet of Six Sigma. Stop defects from happening in the first place. Because in the long run, external failures are the highest cost on this list. Again, it's expensive to fix, replace, or upgrade defective products or services, let alone resolve customer complaints, dissatisfaction, and mistrust. Negative reviews can kill a business, and in extreme cases, external failures can lead to civil and criminal suits. We're better off with increasing appraisal costs to catch defects before they reach the customer. Better yet, if we can implement true prevention, we won't have any defects. So we wouldn't even need appraisal. So let's think through that again because it can be difficult to digest, but it does make sense. If an organization can achieve 100% prevention, no defects will occur and appraisal is not needed. That's why the high level of Six Sigma, virtually defect-free quality is so meaningful. Prevention in the form of tight processes and technology will be costly up front. In the long run, however, prevention will help us avoid the more expensive external and internal failure costs, as well as appraisal costs. So prevention is the lowest cost on this list in the long run. One quality guru in the 1980s, just when the US was launching its quality comeback, was Philip Crosby, who wrote a book entitled Quality is Free: The Art of Making Quality Certain. Crosby maintained prevention over inspection. It's more effective to prevent defects than to find and fix them via appraisal, internal failures, or in the worst case, external failures later on. And he coined the term drift. Do it right the first time, prevent defects instead of fixing them later. Drift. So is quality really free? Well, no. Crosby's point is that quality and ideally prevention eventually pays for itself, reducing or eliminating the more expensive external and internal failures. In other words, quality has a positive return on investment. Let's then dig deeper into the potential benefits of quality, categorizing them as immediate versus delayed impacts. And then also more tangible impacts versus less tangible ones. So let's consider tangible, meaning easily measured, and immediate quality benefits, which may include increasing revenue, more sales, or reducing costs. Or a subset of costs are reduced labor costs via lower headcount and less overtime. And then we can also accelerate cash flow to help the organization get cash back faster. Tangible but delayed, meaning slower quality benefits, include shifting headcount, meaning we move employees who are no longer needed in the problematic areas. And we can improve productivity, meaning a higher ratio of outputs over inputs. So we get more outputs with the same inputs or the same outputs with fewer inputs. Then less tangible, meaning difficult to measure, but immediate quality benefits include avoiding lost revenue, such as reduced lost sales from dissatisfied customers. And we can also avoid costs, such as stopping internal and external failure costs. The challenge with intangible benefits is the inability to see and measure them, meaning most organizations don't know when they don't lose a customer or don't incur a refund or warranty. In other words, we can't really measure what doesn't happen. However, we can probably estimate it by, say, decreases in refunds and warranties after a process improvement project. Finally, less tangible and delayed impacts are the most challenging, but potentially most beneficial to the organization, such as think about improving customer satisfaction, as well as improving our brand and our organizational reputation in the marketplace. Also, think about the benefits of mitigating liability, such as avoiding negative brand image, avoiding civil suits and criminal suits. Then also consider the power of stimulating organizational innovation, as well as engaging employees in quality and in the organization as a whole. On the one hand, increasing revenue and reducing costs are immediate and measurable. So organizational leadership will like that a lot. So we might focus on these to help sell quality projects, process improvement projects to organizational leadership. On the other hand, I argue that the true power of quality long term is with the less tangible and delayed impacts, such as improving customer satisfaction, building a stronger brand, as well as stimulating innovation and employee engagement. These can be difficult to measure, but they can power an organization to long term competitive advantage. Dr. Deming recognized this idea many years ago. He realized that some quality initiatives in the organization may over focus on the uglier form of cost cutting, including employee layoffs and facility shutdowns. For instance, employees may feel that the process improvement consultants want to point out their mistakes and their shortcomings, or even reveal that their jobs aren't really necessary. So, this will create a culture of fear, leading to unhappy workers, and that translates to dissatisfied customers. Really, what happens to an organization with a challenging culture? Well, the reality is that the best employees leave, further contributing to poorer quality. In contrast, the continuous improvement view urges total involvement of all employees in improving processes and quality. And this creates a proactive culture in which employees feel empowered, and customers also experience this positive culture and higher quality, likely leading to higher levels of satisfaction. Deming organized these positive aspects of quality with his chain reaction. As you improve quality, costs decrease, such as less scrap and less rework, while employee productivity, their outputs, improve. And then the organization is able to capture more customers, more market share, and then not only stay in business, but also grow the business. And as the organization grows, existing jobs get more responsibility and higher salaries, and new jobs are also created. And this environment fuels further improvements in quality, restarting the chain reaction. The point is that a positive culture of continuous improvement feeds itself via quality advances, employee empowerment, and organizational success. And this idea syncs with the importance of the long term, intangible benefits of quality that we just highlighted. James Heskett promoted a similar concept with the service profit chain. We can divide this into the employee experience, the customer experience, and the business experience. So, the employee experience is quality from the employee perspective. For instance, internal service quality means employees have the right tools and the right resources to do their job well. So think about that for a second. Do you have the right tools and resources to do your job well? So internal service quality leads to satisfied employees who not only stay, they're retained, but they're also more productive. And then the customer experience is that customer view of quality. These satisfied, productive employees deliver higher levels of quality to customers, which leads to higher levels of customer satisfaction and loyalty. And finally, the business experience represents the organizational benefits of higher quality. The satisfied, loyal customers spend more with the organization, growing revenue, sales, and support higher profitability. And then the key is that the organization reinvests this financial growth back into the business to further enhance internal service quality, restarting the cycle like the Deming chain reaction. Heskett later promoted the ownership quotient, in which the employees and customers feel like virtual owners of the business. This highest level of engagement furthers the chain reaction of positive outcomes. So, customers who feel like owners act as advocates, relating their experiences to others to persuade new customers, and they also provide constructive feedback for improvement. Employees who feel like owners maintain extreme enthusiasm and dedication with infectious attitudes, further promoting external quality and customer satisfaction. These represent extraordinary benefits of a strong culture of quality. Employees are empowered and engaged, and customers are satisfied and loyal. And this creates the opportunity for long term competitive advantage. But the reality is that many organizations just struggle with day to day operations and are unable to see and implement a long term quality vision. So think about your job and your organization. Where are they on this quality culture spectrum? Let's take more inspiration from our benchmarks, starting with Henry Ford. Ford said that the business exists to provide a service to other people. I'll repeat that, provide a service to other people. He wanted to make cars that everyone could afford, not just rich people. And his cars changed society, including where we live, the suburbs, and where we work. Amancio Ortega of Inditex, Zara, similarly wanted everyone to be able to afford fashion. And then Steve Jobs and Apple built computers as a tool to change the world, and they did. And also, they developed the iPhone because they were so dissatisfied with their own cell phones. They thought that customers deserved better. James Dyson developed his vacuums in, quote, protest of all companies that have put out products that have made people unhappy. And next, Google emphasizes leaving money on the table in the short term to build trust and maximize value in the long term. And then Hermes wants to make products that have a soul, really, a soul. Their Birkin bag, which costs at least $12,000, is made by a single artisan over about 20 hours. And those artisans train for at least 5 years before making their first bag. This is really heavy stuff, but let's consider more. Charlie Munger of Berkshire Hathaway said that trust is one of the greatest economic forces on earth. And his partner, Warren Buffett, supported this, emphasizing that strong brands create ferocious loyalty, like Costco. Warren and Charlie loved Costco. By the way, Costco does not generally advertise, they rely almost solely on word of mouth, the customers who feel like a virtual owner. And then Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, says that the value of a company is the sum of all the problems that it solves. Solving problems gives him energy. Michele Ferrero highlights that doing good for others is doing good for oneself. Indeed, altruistic acts trigger the release of chemicals in the brain like dopamine and serotonin that create a helper's high, leading to reduced stress and improved mood. So let me ask you, do you experience a helper's high at work? Steve Jobs again emphasizes business as an act of caring. He said, do you really care what you're putting out into the world? He said that I show you how much I care by the products and services that I make. And to him, products and services are a form of love, a form of love. Todd Graves, he raised the money to start raising canes by working as a boilermaker as well as on a fishing boat in Alaska. And to him, food is an expression of love for friends and family that he learned from his grandmother. And he also loved his dog. That's who the restaurant chain is named after. In 30 years, Raising Cane's has opened more than 900 restaurants, and Todd Graves owns almost every single one of them. And finally, Estee Lauder said that business is an act of love. If it isn't, it's just work. She actually loved empowering customers by personally giving them makeovers, even after she was successful and wealthy. Again, heavy stuff. So let's wrap up the chapter with some rhetorical questions, such as, do you really care about your customers? And can you view doing a good job as an act of caring? And do you ever get a helper's high doing a good job? And then do you try to solve your customers' problems? And does your company like to solve problems? Or do they just want to make money or just survive? These are things to think about now and as you seek new job opportunities in the future. Ideally, your job should not feel like a job. And not just kidding there, not JK. Take it from someone whose job does not feel like a job. And that's a wrap for a long chapter. Be sure to reference the updated learning objectives in D2L and let me know if you have any questions or need any help whatsoever.